All right, everyone, welcome to Deep Dives with Dogs. But today we're going to talk about the Battle of Gettysburg, somewhat of the impacts and those generals involved. So, the Battle of Gettysburg, probably the most famous battle from the American Civil War, happens July 1st, 1863. Definitely a pretty pivotal. I keep saying pivotal recently. Pivotal battle. It will help shape kind of the future of the war and more the end of it, and also to some degree will help ensure that European powers do not get involved in the long run. The Battle of Gettysburg really is a clash between two intellects as well. You have on the Union side George Meade, and on the Southern side, on the Confederate side, you have Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee, he's definitely one of the better generals during the war, of course. Probably the most famous general, besides the only person who I would say is better than him, which is Ulysses Grant. Grant definitely was definitely smarter in a way of how he acted than a lot of other previous generals, but someone that should not be forgotten in terms of intellect and ability is George Meade. George Meade is in charge for quite a long time. Even after Grant takes over, Meade is still very much in charge of certain things. But Meade is able to defeat Lee. Now, part of that, it does have to do with Lee's overall plans being leaked. They find a messenger or whichever, and he had his plans wrapped around cigars, and they managed to get that. So it really told Meade and his staff everything that Lee wanted to do. Now, that is true, but it still takes a competent general to, one, fully understand what's going on and what Lee's overall idea is going to be, but also to implement a working strategy as well. Because you're going to remember, no plan ever survives contact with the enemy. It never happens. Things will change on the battlefield that are not just numbers on a board. It's not like a tactical video game, let's say, where it's two, numbers basically going at it, and those numbers will fight till this number was either higher or had this strategic benefit or whatever, so it wins. That's not necessarily how it works in real life. In real life, there are many other factors as to why something might turn the tide. Someone's gun jammed, someone, they make a slight minute adjustment while the fighting is about to start, and all these other things. And that, it takes a competent general, while all this is going on, to be able to react effectively and to feint the enemy when needed. And that is what George Meade is able to do. He's only a bit younger than Lee. Lee is definitely the senior guy here, about 8 years older than George Meade. So, but not really all that much older in the grand scheme of things. Less than 10 years, so. But they both would have studied Napoleonic tactics at West Point. They both understood the tactics very well. And Meade, one of the reasons why Meade is able to fully understand what Lee's full plan was. The Battle of Gettysburg lasted a few days, of course. And during that time, many Americans on both sides will die. It is not the largest battle of the American Civil War, but it is considered the bloodiest. The largest being, I believe, Vicksburg. You won't have to correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe it's Vicksburg. But it will be the bloodiest. A lot of Americans will die during the days of battle. Famously, as Lee is leaving, he will say to his troops, "It's my fault. I'm sorry. It's my fault." Because this was a pretty crushing Southern defeat. They really, really needed this victory. And today we wouldn't necessarily think about it. We'd be like, oh, well, why do they need it so bad? One of the reasons why they needed this victory so badly is the South always was going to have a problem with logistical survivability, surviving the war longer than the Union. I mean, realistically, that was what the South had to do. They had to survive for as long as possible so that the Union would give up. So when they go on this big offensive and they lose all these troops and things like that, and they don't get a victory out of it, that's pretty bad. If they had gotten a victory, could have maybe clutched something up. Now, to be fair, and people will point this out, even if the Battle of Gettysburg goes in Lee's favor, he would have had to withdraw. But it still would have been a victory in the hearts and minds, you could say, of even the Union. Be like, well, let's do for peace. That doesn't happen. It is a loss on the Confederate side, and it will lead to an even bigger loss with all that comes because of this battle. You have things like, hey, this war, it is not just about unifying the nation. It's about slavery and things like that. Lincoln will say this. And part of that is, hey, look, Lincoln was someone who wanted to get rid of slavery. Never thought it was politically viable until this time. But also, it is a tactical decision as well. Europe will not get into this war on the Confederate side if it is about slavery. So, gotta also claim for that reason too. But that's all to say. Battle of Gettysburg, definitely one of the most pivotal battles. You want to say pivotable? I don't know why. But pivotal battles in the American Civil War, and will continue to be of great importance on all of American history. But that's going to do it for this video. If you guys like the video, leave a like. If you have any ways I can improve on these videos, leave a comment down below. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.